Relic seeking, creature reeling, deep, dark, secret concealing, cosmic horror adventure. Folks, welcome to the channel, it's me, Rhythmicon, and I want to share with you my thoughts and feelings on this brand new and somewhat twisted indie fishing sim, Dredge. Your soul is a sea as still as can be. You dip your head looking longingly, frantically for what's supposed to be lurking beneath the surface, but you find nothing. Emptiness. And so, in search of that missing something, you sail where the waves climb high and crash against the cliffs, to a mysterious place where perhaps things aren't all as they seem. It's here that you answer the call to become the new angler of Greater Marrow, a sleepy island town with some unusual inhabitants, and it's here that your journey through Dredge begins. The mayor, a sort of Lovecraftian Winston Churchill, wastes no time in putting you to work, and you're setting sail mere moments after arriving. Fishing on the shores of Greater Marrow and beyond is a bit different to reeling in fish in your local lake at home though. There's no need to lug buckets of worms around or wait, rod in hand, for days on end until something rears its corrupted gills. On these waters, where there are over 120 variant species to be found, you'll fish with a mixture of timing-based mini-games. They aren't difficult, and even though you'll often be presented with new variations as you discover fresh spots to fish in and unique species to haul up, you'll soon find yourself used to them. It might not be a good idea to get too comfortable out here though. These waters, they can be a little unpredictable. The fishmonger back in town waits patiently around the clock, sharpening his fillet knife for you to deliver your haul. But there's only so much one humble fishing vessel can carry. Before you think about selling, you'll need to drag and spin each catch, squeezing them on board and making sure your load is perfectly optimized for maximum profit. The components of your vessel and the tools on board take up their own space too, so you'll have to make some thoughtful decisions about what's worth carrying to and from each destination. Oh, and don't forget to leave room for any scrap metal and pieces of timber, or perhaps even a pair of sea-worn ruby earrings. You'll need those later. Speaking of later, the day is rolling on and the sun is quickly setting around you. There is one way to halt the advance of time, however, and that's to remain deathly still. No sailing, no fishing, only the gentle quietude of the waves bobbing beneath you. You've got a responsibility to get your catch back to the fishmonger before they become rotten and completely worthless though, and trust me, you aren't going to want to be out here on the water after dark. It's hard to navigate with all this fog wrapping itself around you, and as the humble bulb on your boat fizzles out into blackness, panic begins to set in, and you might just find yourself seeing things that aren't really there. Or are they? The ocean dares you to try your luck, and if you spend too long out here, anxious, cold, and desperate, you might find that the water turns from friend to foe, and at that point, you'll be lucky if you make it back to shore with your boat and your cargo all in one piece. I'm sure that's not going to happen to you though. You've got the good sense to return to Sanctuary before the lights go out, and awaiting you there is the faithful fishmonger, who's ready to hand over a few dollars in exchange for your hard day's work. Now you find yourself staring out to sea, cash in hand, wondering what good these crumpled up bits of paper even are to you, a nomadic fisherman living alone on his trawler. Enter the shipwright, who's more than happy to take that money off your hands along with the wood, metal and cloth you've lugged back to town. In exchange, she'll try to make this arduous seafaring life a little less challenging for you. Perhaps you need a better engine, sturdier or more versatile fishing rods, or a new set of lights to help you pierce the veil of night. She's got everything you need to make your next outing on the waves that little bit easier. For now. Therein lies the core loop of Dredge, and this is a tale you'll weave many times before you reach the climax, if indeed you're able to stay your panic long enough to get there. Don't be mistaken though, deep down, Dredge is a relaxing fishing sim. Think Stardew Valley, think Animal Crossing. As you fall into a rhythm with the minigames or get lost in the therapeutically satisfying inventory management system, all while the subdued pianos and strings of this stunning soundtrack soar and glide in the background, you can easily unwind and feel at ease. Perhaps the sudden sound of rolling storms on the horizon or the sight of a thick fog rolling in will keep you from feeling too relaxed though, and that's not always a bad thing. You certainly wouldn't want to overlook the signs of something unsettling encroaching just out of view. Now you might be thinking that all of this sounds quite simple, and you're not wrong, but I found a deeply entertaining and addictive quality to Dredge's gameplay loop of exploring, fishing and upgrading, so much so that I sailed from beginning to end in one 10-hour sitting. The The days don't drag on, and the game never holds out too long before letting you in on the next discovery, be it new upgrades, new species of fish, new locations with new people to meet and quests to complete, or perhaps a new otherworldly and ungodly ability to aid you on your journey. There are some compelling puzzles to solve and mysteries to unravel as well, so make sure you sink a hot coffee or two before setting off for the day. You'll certainly want that boost of brain power on board. All of that being said, there were a few occasions where I was dawdling in one locale, perhaps trying to grind some salvage for ship upgrades, or just earn a few extra bucks, and caught myself having to wipe away a bead of boredom from beneath my fisherman's cap. Perhaps the trepidation of crossing these unknown waters had me lingering in one spot too long, but once I embraced the sense of adventure that comes with sailing the high seas, and allowed myself to be carried away by Dredge's current, this particular problem quickly started to fade. These mysterious islanders dotted around the game's map have favours aplenty to ask of you, and you signed up for this job, buddy, so anchors up and get on with it. Not least peculiar of these oddball inhabitants is the enigmatic man known to you only as the Collector, living in dilapidation and isolation in the ruined mansion of Blackstone Isle. It's not just the promise of that shiny new twin-turbine engine from Great Tomorrow's shipwright then that compels you to keep fishing, but also the Collector's queer request that you deliver unto him 5 seemingly arbitrary relics. He offers in return the vague promise of reward beyond all imagining. And who are you, a reticent, lonely fisherman meandering through life almost entirely void of purpose, to refuse? This task is the main plot propellant throughout your journey, and the course of carrying it out will see you sailing off to all corners of the map, befriending peculiar people and somehow using your infallible fishing rod to sort out all their problems. You'll need to keep the sea salt out of your eyes as you go too, lest you miss out on some often cryptic clues that can be collected to help you piece together just what's been going on out here. And trust me when I say, you're going to want as many pieces of the puzzle as possible before you see this story all the way through, and that's as much detail as I'm willing to go into. That said, it's a subtle story, just enough to lend the experience some intrigue, supporting the overall atmosphere and offering a worthwhile payoff at the end, but not enough to become the focal point of the whole game. I came away from Dredge reeling, though less from having experienced an exceptional narrative and more from simply the package as a whole. The cosmic horror and H.P. Lovecraft-inspired elements are in perfect harmony with this idyllic island fisherman fantasy. They're just present enough to bestow Dredge with its individuality, but they aren't hammered home to the point of becoming excessive or tropey. I think there will be those who finish with Dredge and wish that Black Salt Games had gone thicker and faster on those themes, but I feel like the developers have opted for a more tactful approach here, luring you in before casting you out again and carefully holding you in this limbo-like paralytic state where you can't quite loosen up entirely, but you're never tightened to the point of snapping. As with most things in life though, the more you come to understand its inner workings and uncover its intricacies, Dredge will probably become less intimidating for most players. The game makes numerous and varied attempts to find fresh ways of spooking you until the very end, but with so many nets cast, it's inevitable that some will tangle you up and others will pass by you, depending on your tastes and tolerance. Even as the anxiety and dread began to wear away in the game's closing hours though, the sense of wonder and just, wow, that's so cool, never did. I was always able to appreciate and enjoy what the game was doing, even when it didn't have the impact it was perhaps hoping to have. I have to say that I don't think I've ever experienced horror tackled in quite this way. Black Salt Games have demonstrated an incredible ability to use your preconceptions against you, have proved themselves so deft in doing so in fact, that once or twice I completely forgot that I was playing a horror game at all, only to be reminded by the onset of a sudden sinking feeling in my stomach. Dredge deferentially winds in elements from tried and tested titles, hooking them carefully together into something fresh, and it holds each familiar component proudly out into the wind, carefully twisting and tweaking them to whisk your expectations overboard, until you feel as though you're sailing in entirely uncharted waters. It's not easy to be distinctive and stand out when you call upon themes that have been this heavily reused and recycled through many different forms of media and entertainment, but Black Salt Games, even as an outfit of only 4 developers, have pulled it off exceptionally well, and it amounts to, quite frankly, the best indie release I've enjoyed in years. That's all from me folks, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you give Dredge a go because I highly recommend it. If you do, or if you already have, please let me know what you thought in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you next time.